Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. It is Dara and Brian here with you today, and we are going to be talking about some wish list and speculation for World Eaters in 10th edition, specifically what we are anticipating and what we're hoping to get from our Codex, which, fingers crossed, is going to come out at some point next year.
At
Now,
some
I
point.
suppose at some
Yeah.
point, yeah, I suppose to caveat it, the video by saying we don't have any insider information. Like our speculation here is pretty much purely guesswork and wish listing. We don't have any information. We're not trying to gaslight people into saying we don't when we actually do. We're just trying to put some things together here. So take that all with a grain of salt, and obviously leave your own contributions down below if you think that we've missed out on something, or if you agree or disagree with our points here. We would love to have that engaged conversation. But yeah, we kind of thought that we'd make this video after what was admittedly a very disappointing preview from GW in the last week at the Nova Open, where they said they were going to give us some roadmaps, and I suppose in the loosest definition of the word roadmap, they did, but ultimately was not a great delivery on what we had been hoping to see, specifically maybe to see World Leaders coming out at some point next year. But we didn't really get anything. So let's kick it off by talking a brief bit about that. Brian, how are you kind of feeling about the roadmap?
I was I think everybody will at least say that they were disappointed. Because the event was hyped up quite a bit. Like there was a lot of because we've had a lot of I don't want to say duds for reveal shows because there's been a lot of really cool stuff shown off for other game systems. Like it's been relatively dry for 40K. Blood Angels is a big deal. Yeah, they've gotten like 6 or 7 new kits or refreshes. But when they announced like we're going to release roadmap for all 4 of our major flagship game systems, and I mean, I think 40K probably got the best roadmap in terms of
I
information
would say
shown,
Age of Sigmar probably got the
but
best one.
even then they just got told Slaves of Darkness and then they're just getting books. Like, but that's not the bar wasn't very high because I mean, like the Horus Heresy one was like we're getting tanks. And that's like
Yeah, that one was
that's
real
it.
bad.
And it's, you don't know when, but you're getting tanks. And the old world was just like, you could get a faction. So, I was there last year, pretty much this time last year, at WCW when they revealed the first roadmap. And I sat down there like, yeah, 10th edition's kicking off. And I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then they were like, yeah, here's the next 10 factions, guys, in this order. And I was like, oh wow, like that was really cool to see. And they kept to the schedule that they set, and it actually was an incredibly aggressive schedule. Like there was one month where I was like a book coming out every weekend. And there was a
Yeah, it was great.
preview. Yeah, there was like a pre-order every weekend, it felt like, or every other at least. So I was expecting that again, maybe something smaller. Like even when they finished a section of the roadmap, like they got done with spring and summer and we were into fall and winter, they'd show us the next spring and summer. And that's when we got like Sisters GSC shown to us on the roadmap. And then Inquisition was also on there. But like Blood Angels just kind of came out of nowhere and then also went, never saw a roadmap, was never planned. And then we get shown them again on the same roadmap, but like tentative release for like December. Doesn't feel great.
It wasn't, yeah. I mean, I don't want to speculate too much about what's going on, but it definitely feels like something has gone wrong. And that this is maybe not what was intended, because I feel like 4 months without a release for 3 of the 4 major systems is not really probably what was on their agenda. So
Uh,
yeah, I was pretty annoyed about the whole thing.
No, it's worth saying that it's no new releases, right? We're still probably going to have like Christmas boxes are just around the corner. We're probably going to get some sick Christmas boxes for a lot of the new factions that just got shown off. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Blood Angels box with like everything in it. And I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised if a Dark Angels box or something like that's on the way that has the lion and because they tend to rotate through like your big centerpiece models with their friends. So like there's gonna be new stuff coming out this year. We're still gonna get shown cool 40K stuff, just but like no new content is what I meant. Like
yeah, which is rough. I mean, especially from like I think a world leader's perspective is kind of like we've been really squeezing this index for innovation and stuff to do with it, and with the limited data pool that we have in terms of unit availability, it's getting pretty hard to get mileage out of that, especially content mileage here in the Red Path. But we're doing our best, and we have some stuff planned. And I mean, I was kind of hoping to have at least an endpoint or a rough endpoint where I could say like, all right, we can plan around this in terms of what we want to be making. But yeah, it ultimately was just very, very disappointing. And I think one of the most disappointing things is that we will be almost 2 years into the edition with still only a single codex for Chaos faction, which is
which
that is probably the part that stings the most for me.
I have my own headcanon on that, and we'll probably get to that a little bit later in the video once we start
Hmm.
doing our wild wish listing. But yeah, I mean, what we have, I think, just shot one codex shy of half of the codexes released. And like Dara said, by the end of the year, when that codex does release and we're at the halfway point, it will be 2 years into the edition, and we still only have half of the codexes. Just like that means one of two
Not great.
things. Either this is going to be a very long edition, or we're just going to get like 5 codexes a month, and it's just going to be super rushed towards the end. Um, so. We'll see. I'm hopeful. Like I'm still excited for the future. It's just I wish it wasn't hyped up as much. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's quite fair. But let's move away from the I suppose the negative news and talk about some speculation and some exciting
Yes.
stuff. So we're gonna try and put a positive spin on the current atmosphere, which is broadly quite negative, and talk about what we want to see for the world leaders when they come out. Like what models we want to see, what rules we want associated with them, what faction rules we want, and then maybe we'll pivot to rumors and wish listy kind of stuff. But let's kick it off with what models we think are probably going to be coming out. And I think it's fair to say there's a certain amount of guesswork that you can do in terms of the current lore around the world leaders, current rumors of people talking about models and stuff like that. And the going rumor is that we're going to get a couple of new units. We're going to get potentially Berserker Cavalry. We're going to get potentially a Terminator upgrade kit. Not Red Butchers, apparently, just an upgrade kit. We're going to get a Terminator Lord, a Foot Lord, and a Berserker Surgeon. So functionally, it's like 3 HQs, one brand new unit, and an upgrade sprue for an existing unit. Um, and I think that's like an interesting spread of models. It's not probably what I would like personally, but I think it still breathes a lot of life into the army, especially, the addition of a Terminator Lord can bring Terminators
It
a
can
new
save
lease of
that data
life.
sheet, yeah.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I
Yeah.
and it sounds like 3 HQs, right? You're not gonna these mod it sounds like this wave of models they get released. You're not gonna be like spamming a crazy amount of them unless you're Dara with like 18 cav, but like
I'll do what I need to do.
having character diversity actually does wonders for list design. Like a surgeon or some berserker support style character other than just having berserkers exist as an ablative wounds for Mo. Like that's what we currently use berserkers for, is they're there to keep Mo alive for another turn to swing.
Yeah.
Or you have 5 berserkers with Khorne just to power Khorne up. Like the berserkers are just there on the side, right? Like they have their use, but you would want like we're world eaters, right? Our berserkers should be our core in what makes the army tick. They should be our death company, right? They should be out there smacking stuff.
Yeah.
And like a lord or a surgeon to turn that on, where we're just, yeah, screw it. Like we're a very CP intensive army too. So like getting access to CP manipulation, being able to be like, yeah, +1
I
to
mean,
wound.
if the Lord is a carbon copy of the CSM one, that's already a
Oh, we
lot
would
of
spam that in a heartbeat.
yeah.
All of your berserkers read their +1 to wound, and your 8 dice, that just happens. Like, and you have room to interrupt. That would be so sick.
It would, as you said, it would breathe life into the diversity of lists. I know it's not necessarily a whole bunch of new units, but you know, right now it's a choice of you've got a non-epic hero and an epic hero to lead your Zerks. But when that unit pool increases to 4, it's way more interesting because they're all going to bring different, aspects and assets to the Berserker unit, which will power them up in different ways. Like, I guess we could talk about speculated rules for the likes of the Berserker Surgeon. One thing that I would really like for this guy is that while he's leading a unit, he gets into combat and you can roll the 8 dice for that unit and he gets to apply a third buff to that unit. I think that would be something that's really cool. Kind of like maybe a once per game thing. He gets to do that, and at the end of the game, or at the end of the activation, maybe they take some mortal wounds to represent him, kind of tweaking the nails a little bit.
Hmm.
And obviously, he's probably going to give them a feel no pain because he's an apothecary style dude, which then could be boosted with our blood dice to a 5-up, which really changes I suppose, the role that berserkers have if you're in a situation where they can get to a 5-up feel no pain. Obviously, it's speculation, but just thinking about that, it like actually does change how they operate on the battlefield quite a lot. It makes Blood Surge really terrifying, because you really have to sink a lot of resource into that unit to take it up. And then obviously with the Lord, like we were saying, CP manipulation in an army which is as CP intensive as us is really, really impactful. So I think those two characters alone obviously would be very impressive. And then, what do you think for the Terminator Lord? Like, what's he going to bring to a Terminator unit?
I would like to see some sort of ability to like advance and shoot still for Terminators. That's like kind of one of the biggest downsides to playing Terminators is they just they actually have good firepower and good utility, but throwing them down on the board and advancing charging them, you just don't get to use that entire side of their kit. It's just a very non-bow conflicting thing. I know that's not the World Eater thing to advance and shoot, but like that could be cool to have in a limited aspect. Like I hate the whole stigma of World Eaters are melee only and they've never used guns ever. That's actually just straight up not true if you read any of the lore. Like
Even the most recent Codex is like war bands that love guns. So yeah,
and like I'm not
you know,
saying that World Eaters have to be a shooty army. Like we will never be based off of the data sheets that we have available to us and the rules that we have, but just neglecting support for it altogether, I don't know. It feels like a waste of design space. So I would like to see something that just pushes the Terminators beyond. Maybe like giving them +1 to advance and charge so that you could have an argument for dropping them out of deep strike and charge, attempting a 7-inch or 8-inch charge, like or with Angron nearby. Just something just to make them more whole and then also giving them yeah strat discounts, like imagine having a lord attached to them so that the 2 CP -1 damage is actually 1 CP -1 damage. Suddenly that
would
seems
be
way
really
more
good.
stomachable, right? Like and then you have the
Yeah.
character leading the squad, I don't know, throw the berserker glaive on him and now you just got a terminator body with a 3 damage power fist or chain fist. That would be sick.
I mean, it harkens back to the days of 8th edition where we used to have the Terminator Lord with Gorefather, and he used to
Oh
just go in and
God.
club people. That was good times.
And fight twice
Um,
and all that.
yeah. Oh, so good.
Which
So so nasty.
they have shown fight twice as a
It exists
enhancement.
now.
Like it exists for the
Enhancement. Yeah.
first time in 10th. And
Yeah. It
if there's one
exists.
thing GW has shown us is they will definitely parasite off of their own books to write new
Mm-hmm.
books. So like it could happen in our book.
For sure. For sure. And then I suppose there's like the Berserker Cavalry, right? Which is a very interesting unit that seems reasonable to expect based on, variety of lore things and Invocatus existing and all that. And
And
I think it's an interesting unit. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say, and the Juggernaut Lord, like it seemed like there was a lot of support for them already, then they just didn't
Didn't
show
get.
up.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
because
That's a whole other type of speculation, I guess.
because other than Leontis, Lord Solar, right? Leontis,
mm,
he's the only mounted character that can lead non-mounted things. That's just not something GW likes to do.
yeah.
So we're just stuck with two mounted characters that also are a non-bow by we just don't attach them anyways. Like
Yeah.
they don't really.
But, in a unit of 6 Juggernaut Berserkers, is a whole new role, right? Like it obviously it introduces a new unit to the army, but it also changes up how we play with these two existing characters, which is quite interesting. Like I don't know how impactful it is for Invo, but for the Juglord, that's really interesting, I think, because you're getting stuff like, I mean, a character who's already relatively okay in combat, but he's backed up by an actual substantial unit now. And I mean, there's a whole host of roles that they could have on the battlefield. My thing is kind of like the lines may start to become a little bit blurred between 8-bound, Exalted 8-bound, and Jugcav, where I'm like, they sort of all, in an ideal world, would have different targets that they want to be going after. But I get the impression that it would be quite difficult to do that, unless they give the Berserker Cavalry some fairly unique weaponry that maybe makes them very anti-tank or very anti-horde. Because right now your 8 bound variants are just doing everything very well. So you'd either have to see like unique war gear or 8 bound being changed so that they become a little bit more specialized. And I love the idea of Berserker Cavalry, but my concern is that they're coming into an ecosystem that already has their niche filled multiple times.
Right. And actually, I would say another niche that you weren't thinking about is that I think they might step on the toes of Terminators. Like one of the big aspects that Terminators have over 8-bound is it's a 2-up, 4-up. Based off of what GW's been showing, GW has been favoring like lethality hasn't really been going up much in 10th, like a little bit you could say with the Blood Angels Codex and Sisters, but for the most part, it's still nowhere near what ninth was. But they have been jacking durability through the roof. Like I would not be shocked if they stayed like the Lords and were 2-up, 4-ups. More likely 2-up, 5-up, but if they were a 2-up, 4-up, I wouldn't be
That's
shocked.
good, yeah.
And they'd
And I
be high
mean,
toughness, 2-up, 4-up, and also sandbagging the -1 damage on probably like a 4-wound, 3-wound model.
I was gonna say it's the -1 damage on those guys is pretty jacked, right?
Right. So I could actually see them taking the role of what would be the Terminators right now, which we don't see
Yeah.
much in the meta, other than randomly winning Derek Doom. Um,
I
but
think with the Terminators, the Lord could give them a new role, though. Like something
yeah,
like an extra AP on the charge when the Lord is leading them suddenly makes them anti-tank killers. Those Parafists are going up to AP3. It's like, okay, they can punch into armor now. But
yeah, but
it's an interesting one.
yeah, and like people say like speed holds the Terminator's back. Well, if you want like that Terminator style durability, maybe the Cav is the way, and you could still keep the 8-bound running along with them to be your shock troops versus now you have literal mobile tanks like an AOS, like pulling from AOS, Skull Crushers, um, are super, super durable. I think they're the most durable unit in AOS at like a ground level, non-epic hero, non-character like combo. Just base stats, they're basically the equivalent of a 2-up, 4-up in 40k with high toughness. I think they're 5 wounds each too in AOS, which is
Yeah. I
nuts.
mean, what's a Blood Crusher in 40k? Is it 3 wounds?
No, I think they're 4 wounds, I think, a piece.
The
But
World Eater ones will be one more than the Demon ones, right? Because it is a Marine on the back.
maybe, but you can't say that because the Juggernaut Lords are
True.
T6, but the Demons T7.
Yeah.
And then now
So
you're
it's too
trusting
much.
GW to. I, I
I
wouldn't
mean,
use
obviously,
the.
the biggest thing that's going to hold back the cavalry is whether or not they have any sort of access to breach, which is going to be the thing that breaks them or makes them, I
Well,
think.
I think this is a good segue into probably our next little talking point, which would be like what we would expect to see from the Codex,
Cool. Let's do
because
that.
I think that problem will be solved in the Codex, but not solved. Like
Okay. Why
for
don't
ex-
you elaborate on that?
for example, I think we're probably our Codex is one being realistic, we're not getting 8 detachments, right? That's just not going to happen. That'd be cool, be the funny number, but it's not going to happen. Realistically, set your expectations at 3 and maybe 4 if we're getting lucky, right? Would be my hope. I can very easily see 3 detachments right now. I could brainstorm them right now and pretty decent design space idea of what they could be. I think we're going to have a detachment for every single epic hero in our codex. We're going to have Butcher Horde, which is kind of Karn's style.
Turning the boys, yeah.
Karn and the boys. We're going to have Fire Riders, which is going to be Invocatus and the boys. And we're probably going to have or see a return of Disciples of the Red Angels to some degree, where it's going to be Angron and all about your 8-bound and demons and maybe bloodletters and stuff going on in there, which we have like we can pull on Imperial Agents and Brood Brothers from Gene Stealers for like what that could be. But I could very easily see like Invocatus's detachment saying having like a 1 CP go through walls for cavalry. And
Which I'm honestly fine if like the Juggernaut dudes can't breach in other detachments. And then
right.
it's like the one that they're supposed to excel in is where they excel. Because I think if you have a unit which is supposed to have a disadvantage or weakness, in the case of the cavalry, their ability to navigate around buildings. And if you just make it a universal thing where they can just say, I ignore that weakness, it's a problem. But if you lock the ability to ignore the weakness into a specific format, in this case a detachment, it kind of makes it a bit easier to swallow, because it's kind of like, if I want to lean into this thing, I have to go into the army style which supports it, which should be the Fire Riders at the end of the day.
And if we're looking at like Blood Angels is a good, I mean, like Blood Angels is probably as good as we can get for
Yeah.
pulling from their code because we've always been somewhat a carbon copy of them, just with spikes. Um, it's going to be pretty hard to beat +1 attack, +1 strength. Just saying, just from the detachment rules, if that maintains itself as a detachment rule, that's going to be pretty hard to beat one. So it would have to be pretty strong Fire Riders rules. Um, but yeah, once you you as Dara was saying, you want your downsides to be covered by detachments, but you also should be giving something up significant, like that +1 strength, +1 attack. Is going through walls and advancing charging as a universal mechanic better?
It should be a choice, right?
Probably, but yeah, it should be a choice.
Yeah, where it's like, if I want my juggernauts to overcome the main weakness to them, I have to give up some of their offensive output. Now, as a detachment rule, I don't necessarily know what the Fire Riders would have. I mean, do you have any kind of thoughts on maybe what their overall rule would be? Because I feel like the breach is going to be a strat, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe an enhancement.
Mhm. I was thinking somewhat of a mix between like Stormlance and something else. Um, just advance and charge, advance and shoot the detachment, something like that.
It makes sense. Yeah. I
And
mean,
like
I
that
could
sounds
weirdly see them be the uppy downy detachment as well, though.
sure, maybe that's a strat.
Yeah.
And it,
Yeah.
it sounds nuts, right? Like say universal advance and charge for world leaders. Like, oh yeah, we'd be all over that. Imagine me getting to roll my 8 dice and just not have to worry about picking that blessing, which probably means I don't know. Blessings are already pretty awkward with a multi-detachment system. Um,
Blessings is one of those things which I would like to see change for the Codex.
and
On that note,
I think it'll be majorly overhauled because there's been a widespread like even world leader players themselves will mention that Engron's revive is messed up. So I think
that's a
there's gonna
different thing, though. I mean,
it's
like
a different
blessings
thing. But
itself.
I think blessings is at least gonna get looked at, even if it's just from his perspective too. Um, but like having a detachment that would say the whole attachment gets to advance and charge at all times. But if you're giving up +1 strength, +1 attack, that's a lot of offensive breakpoints, and we're losing a lot of attacks. So even though we're
Yeah.
advancing charging at all times, guaranteed, that's not necessarily broken just because we get a lot from being on the charge in the current detachment as is. Like,
It's the breakpoints, like you said. Like, it takes a lot of our units down a peg into places that they don't really want to be living.
like 8 bound at strength 5 always like puzzled me. The fact that regular 8 bound are the same strength as berserkers, like that's just weird to me. But
Yeah.
being strength 5 8 bound is big sad, especially when you're swinging into like toughness 6, toughness 5 orcs. Like that's just big sad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you reckon we got Fire Riders? Do you think Karn's detachment, the Berserker Horde, is going to get shifted at all, or do you think it's going to stay relatively intact?
I think it's gonna. I think it'll probably stay relatively intact. I think if anything changes, it would be the blessings. I think his
Mm.
detachment would all it always has been and always will be his detachment, like it has been in ninth and eighth. It's just kind of like Khorne
It's
and
a
the
good
boys
thing to
running around
remember
killing
as well
stuff.
that, like, if you choose Fire Riders, that Berserker Glaive ain't there anymore, which is like you're gonna miss that drug.
Yep, but I think we keep because all of the strats are like just
They're pretty
solid
good. Yeah.
combat generic. They're not super like all of our strats as is are generic. They don't really give us an identity. We're just like, yeah, I'm +1 to wounds. Yeah, I just get to use my army rule again. Yeah, I get to like auto advance and like as the Blood Angels have shown, every single detachment has access to advance and charge in their book, so it'd be reasonable to expect the same from ours that we have advance and charge support in all of the detachments.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
just +1 strength, +1 attack, it's kind of like just vanilla world leaders. We've had it forever, right? Like,
As long as I've been playing, anyway.
I don't see a reason why that would change.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I like the idea of some of the enhancements for the Fire Riders, though. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, that'll be interesting, because I feel like there's gonna be like a this guy and his unit gets deep strike. I just feel like that's like a guaranteed one for Fire Riders, you know?
And and they have the fly keyword.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
could
like
see that.
I
I
feel like
could
there's
see
gonna
that.
be a wacky
There's
strat
gonna
in
be a
there.
fly keyword in there
It's
somewhere.
gonna be
Yeah.
an enhancement, or they're gonna rewrite Invocatus. Actually, no, I hope Invocatus gets like the Mephiston treatment, but whatever. Um, there's gonna be
Yeah.
something in there that says your squad gains fly, because why would they give it to him in ninth just to take it away without giving it back? That's just
The uppy downy will be there as well. I feel like it's going to be an enhancement. Like, maybe once per game, once per battle round, whatever. You can pick the boys up or something.
I
I
could
just
see
feel like the enhancements there are going to be wild,
I could
like
see that
really weird stuff.
being a strat of like pick two world leader units that are 9 inches away from the aboard edge, put them into reserves. Kind of
Yeah.
like a mix of what like Votan bikes do, as an example. Like
Yeah. Yeah. That
at
could,
the end of your
that could be a
opponent's
thing.
turn, you put them in reserves. What if that's just a strat you could do to any unit, right?
Like an
Like
outflank kind of thing. It's very Fire Riders. You got to think about their theme of kind of like riding the enemy down, like encircling the prey, striking at the weak points.
hit and
It's gonna
run.
be all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Oh, we're gonna get their detachment rule is gonna be like the Terminator's rule, but reversed, where it's like you get +1 a hit when you're attacking a weakened unit, and +1 a wound when they're below half strength. That's gonna be the entire detachment
I don't
rule,
know if
and
that's
no
good.
one will play Fire
No,
Riders.
don't.
It's
Just
gonna
don't.
be super fucking bad.
Go away. All
I'm
right.
manifesting it.
I think we covered the our two probably most likely detachments pretty well.
Yeah.
I'd be willing
What
to.
and disciples? You're thinking disciples as well is pretty likely, which I kind of agree with. I mean, we've literally the very first iteration of like detachments was ninth edition when we got disciples of the Red Angels, so it seems like reasonably likely that that's probably going to return. And that could be a spicy one. I think that could end up being maybe the competitive choice, like the base level competitive choice in terms of like raw power, if
It's
it leans into it in the same way it did before.
it would probably just based off of. I mean, obviously, when the detachments come out, we'll make that analysis and figure out which is like the best, most
I won't analyze
competitively
anything. I'm going
viable.
to be raw thoughts only.
Yeah. Yep. Just straight opinions. Um, I'm just gonna say right now, assuming all three detachments are equal power level and equal viability, this one would probably be my favorite. I
Disciples.
I got into 40K on the back of Khorne Demons. Like I had no idea. I was a World Leader player before I knew who Angron was and before I knew Khorne was, only because I figured out they were the guys that worshipped the cool demons. So, giving me an excuse to play Bloodletters and Bloodthirsters next to my World Leaders. I know some like there's actually that's a pretty split opinion in the community. Some people love like the just Space Marines and some people love their demons. I'm a guy that likes both. So I would absolutely love to be running Flesh Hounds and Bloodletters with rule support because you can already do it now, but it's a bad idea. Don't do it. Um, but with decent rule
Yeah.
support and actually making it viable, that'd be sick. And I could see that just being like the brute force detachment of we're not running Berserkers. We're just Bloodletters, Eightbound, and Angron with a Bloodthirster on the side. And that sounds super fun. Probably be the most elite of the three, but like
Yeah. Unless the Fire Riders attachment involves like a lot of high skill movement shenanigans, I think that would be the hardest one to play. Just because of managing your assets will be quite challenging. But I feel like that would also be the one that maybe has the most manipulation of the blood dice involved. Like we might lose it from the Berserker Horde and it might transfer in there. Just because it feels like the disciples of Khorne or disciples of Angron, they're going to be more in touch with that whole kind of like blessings of Khorne thing. So I feel like if anyone's going to be able to manipulate it, it should realistically be them. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of those janky buddy system stratagems and maybe enhancements and stuff like that.
oh, you
Like
mean
where it's
like
like if these guys charge here, these guys over here get a bonus to charging those guys. That kind of a
or
weird sort of
like
system.
yeah, like if a demon is next to a world leader unit, the demon gets +1 to hit. But if the
Yeah.
world leader is next to a demon unit, maybe he gets like a 6 up feel no pain
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
like that.
And, if they bring back that strat that they had in ninth edition where the 8 bound got to Blood Surge and move their full movement, I'll be on that shit straight up. Like
And
that,
that
that
did
would that would be good.
the only thing that held that detachment back was
Limitations, I
the
think, and what you had to
limitations.
bring. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like
Which
you could
won't really be there for this one because there
yeah,
isn't limitations anymore.
they're like you can only bring demons was the
Mm.
thing. So you were like no jackals and berserkers. That means I'm taking only 8 bound and you're forcing me to ally in 500 points of bloodletter. And it almost forced you to bring land raiders too because you just had to fill the points. Like the
Yeah.
issue is
Yeah.
just filling the points, which you couldn't do, they've made it pretty clear that they won't do that. Like they'll definitely discourage you from running berserkers in a detachment that doesn't help them. Like they're not going to give them any rule support. But they're not just going to straight up say you can't take berserkers like
I
they
mean, it could
did
be a
in
great
ninth.
detachment for the Berserker Cavalry, though, because they will functionally be demons,
I could,
you
yeah.
know?
I'm not shutting them out. I'm just saying, like, as an example, in
Yeah.
ninth, they gate capped really hard, which you could bring. And in 10th, they haven't been gatekeeping nearly as much as they have. They've just been not supporting it with
Mm.
rules, which, again, every detachment has its upsides and downsides. And that's good. That's actually a good thing that they're not necessarily supporting everything within every detachment.
Yeah, for sure.
Because then every list would look, it'd be like Tyranids, where every list looks the same, regardless of the detachment. Like you can walk up to a table, see a Tyranid player, and be like, I can't tell what detachment you're playing, other than maybe
Mm.
Crushers.
Yeah.
That's like the
Oh,
only one where you can look
that
down
is a
and
sick
say,
one.
yeah, like,
Yeah. I don't know. I think Disciples, they all seem interesting to me. And I suppose pivoting now into maybe talking about moving away from what's likely to what's wish listy, and I think to kind of transition nicely into that, my current thoughts are that there will be four detachments. And I'm in agreement with you. So this is wish listy, by the way. I'm in agreement with you that there will be one for each type of character, but I think the if they bring in a Terminator Lord, I think they might use it as an opportunity to reintroduce Zufar as a named character, and then have a detachment themed around, we'll say, like durability world leaders, right? Where it's kind of like go heavy on your terms, go heavy on your armor, on your demon engines, that kind of a thing, and like bring that sort of mentality to the table. Now, I
hopefully,
think that's pretty unlikely to happen, but it would be baller if they brought back the boy Zufar because he is like literally the goat. You know, he's so cool.
copy, paste, Fellhammer Siege Host, move on.
Honestly, it doesn't even. I'm not saying it has to be good. I'm just saying it would be so sick if they reintroduced such a community loved named character. And like he's been in, we just had the new Siege of Rax book. He's rocking around in there. I know it's obviously a historical book in that sense, but like they're talking about Zufar. He is a thing. They talk about him getting away at the end. Spoiler alert and all that. But you know, if there's rumors of a Terminator Lord, all you have to do is make it one of those dual purpose kits where it's like builds Terminator Lord or Zufar the Impaler, which would
And
be awesome.
currently in the lore too, the de facto leader of the World Eaters, because Angron can't be bothered, and Khorne also can't be bothered. Koselex, I could see him returning
Yeah,
too. That's a name that's
yeah,
been thrown
true.
around. He's
And
currently
he's
leading
a
the world.
Terminator, right?
I believe he's a Terminator Lord.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's leading he's leading the world leaders as they are on the Conqueror. Like he's driving the boat. So like
Mm.
could be a
There's
thing.
scope for it, and I think that would offer a because the three detachments that we talked about are still hyper fast, and this one would be slower, more durable, but still obviously quite lethal in combat. But it's like it's just a different way to play the army that isn't hyperspeed.
And I guess if we're going off the rails for a wish listy thing, like I think probably the most out there, but still within the realm of possibility wish list for me. Um, because world leaders don't have CP manipulation, like we mentioned earlier, right? We don't have ways to gain CP. I mean, yes, if you anybody that says Skull Taker, I'm gonna hit you on the head. But we don't really have ways to gain CP. We don't have ways to discount CP. We don't have like Lord of Deceit aura, right? That's not kind of our thing. And it really isn't in our army design either. Like we don't have any like grand strategist commanders, right? If that's making sense. But but the Blood Witch, getting the Blood Witch as Lotara Saren and like some really
That'd be
cool
cool.
demon model, and she's like actually still because she's still around. She's just kind of like a nameless
Ish.
spirit now.
Yeah, I
But I
guess.
could
Yeah,
see
yeah.
like a weird ship captainy Blood Witch demon thing, just
Mm.
given command points in the back. I don't know. That'd just be really cool to me. I
Yeah.
really like her as a character. She's
I think she's
badass.
awesome. Yeah.
And like she just straight up tells Angron to fuck off sometimes, and she shoots world leaders in the head with a pistol because she thinks it's funny.
So
Um,
on that note, what I would say, and one thing that I've seen people pass around as an idea, is a leader for 8-man and Exalted 8-man, like an attachable infantry character, like a named one, right? And speaking of world leaders got shot in the head by Lotara, Delvaris could come back as one of
ooh.
because he was possessed. He was possessed. I know, like in one of the books, which I think is no longer canon, he does die, but also he's a possessed. So, like, what is death?
The amount of times things have been retconned, it's fine.
Right. So bring him back. as like named 8 bound dude who can like lead 8 bound, I would sell my soul to bring Delvaris back. Of all the name characters and world leaders, he's the one I would want to come back the most because he would be sick. And you just give him like his massive like what do you call it, meteor hammer, and he's just rocking around as a possessed. Oh, it would be good. But yeah, that's some thoughts. The If I was to pick as a wish list, right? Because world leaders for me are primarily about the models and then secondary about the rules because that's just how my hobby enjoyment is. If I was to be like, all right, what are my and we'll do it for both of us. Let's do top 3 units we haven't already mentioned. But like, if you were to just be like, GW will make these 3 units guaranteed for the next World Leaders book, what would you pick? Because for me, it's gonna be Greater Brass Scorpion in plastic, Lesser Brass Scorpion, so about Molarfiend size, and one of the more archaic demon engines, like the Blood Cauldron or the Doom Blaster. Dude, if they gave us the Doom Blaster, I would be like, haha, now I am the indirect problem.
And for those of you who don't know what those models look like, don't worry, I'm gonna put some pictures up on the screen for you.
Please,
They look
please do.
amazing.
They're so
They're
good.
amazing.
But I
Um,
would like I love demon engines so much. And I think it's Khorne has the most demon engines out of all the gods. It's such an underused concept in the world leaders at the minute because we don't even we've got the Lord of Skulls, right? And
but
then you look
like
at DG and they have so many demon engines, right? And I'm like, we're missing an opportunity here. People would go nuts. And they offer a new sandbox on the table. You know, you bring in the Doom Blaster, cool. Now we've got guns. You bring in the Blood Cauldron, now we've got a mini Land Raider Redeemer Predator sized thing. You bring in the Brass Scorpion or the Lesser Brass Scorpion, you just open the world of possibilities for people who want to run big centerpiece models. Because, like, yes, we have the Lord of Skulls. Most people think he looks ass, and they're correct. The Lord of Skulls is a bad looking model. But all they have to do is take the Scorpion, make him plastic, and then make him smaller as well. And people will buy the big one and 3 of the small ones. And it's just like, you don't have to put any time into that. I wouldn't even care if the small one looked identical to the big one. I would still just buy 3 and
that
then one
model
big
is
one.
sick.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's so good.
I
And
mean,
so for me, that's what I would pick.
easier solution, I guess. Top three like that we haven't already mentioned. I would like to see kill main burn. I'd like to see something in the burn. I think either if we did end up getting red butchers, I would like to see them be flamer variants, like just like your Death Guard Death Shroud, where they have the Gauntlet Flamers. I'd like to see something to actually give us something to do in the shooting phase and still allow them to like advance and shoot, but like caveat it like only at infantry or something like Ball Predator. Um, I would like to see something in the flame department
Ball
on an
Predator doesn't
infantry
have that
level.
caveat anymore, by the way. It's just
Oh,
its guns are assault now.
and that
I'm
we
gonna
can
salt that wound a little bit more.
Blood Angels. If you're a Blood Angels player, I'm sorry, your codex is cracked. Continuing. Flamers, like even if that's just berserkers with flamethrower or something. Just I want burn.
Hmm.
Jump pack berserkers with double pistol flamers.
So that's what I was gonna say. Like jump pack Zerks with like a destroyer unit from 30k, and they've got like rad flamers or something. You know, they come in and they're like, haha, phosphex. You know?
Yeah, and it's still like melee combat, right? You're still in somebody's face, setting them on fire.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Khorne's still happy. I'd like to see
yeah.
that. I would like to see the return of the blood. I think easier than what Dara said is I'd just like to see the return of the blood slaughterer into plastic. I
Hmm.
think that's just easy. The design
It's a
already
gorgeous
exists.
model.
Like you don't have to redesign and make the lesser brass scorpion. Like, yeah, that'd be awesome to have, but this is just the easier solution. The model's awesome. Like there's so many Easter eggs on the model too. Like really hard to see like where's Waldo Khorne symbols that just aren't
Hmm.
super apparent. Like it still has the nails going into it. The little harpoon is like really thematic and cool, but also like terrifyingly good.
The
Um,
harpoon is like the corn symbol twice, and it forms like that. But you know what I love about that model is the casket where the demon is kept at the back of it, which has like the dude, like the body chained across the back of it. Man, that single detail is like probably my favorite part of the kit. Where I'm just like, God, that's so grimdark. I love it so much.
I would love it so much. Yeah. So like if you asked me, I'd like to see the return of like a specialty Terminator. I don't think that's very likely, guys. I think our two 8-bound models pretty much are our Terminators, in terms of a design space. Um, But I'd like to see something like that come back. Jump pack guys with double pistol flamers and the return of some unique small demon engine that's like around that 130, 140 point mark so that you don't like, sure, you can play demon engine world leaders, right? We have our Lord of Skulls. That is our unique Khorne demon engine, right? But that you have to build a list around it. Something like a Plague Burst crawler, you don't have to build a list around a single Plague Burst crawler, right? You can throw that in any variant of a Death Guard list, and you'd be just fine. But the minute you take a Lord of Skulls, now you actually got to sit down, pull out the pen and paper, and say, okay, how do I make this work, right? I don't want that. I don't want that level of investment. I want something nice, small, cute, little
Yeah,
scorpion, stabby boy, and that's it.
I think that's pretty fair. So what we got up next?
Next, I think Dara and I were just going to briefly touch on the demon rumor.
Right. Okay. You want to take this one?
Yeah, because I'm like the demon guy, I guess. I mean, the rumor's been going around. It's not really a secret anymore that we're going to get AOSified. And all of the cults are going to be incorporating their demons. While I do think, I hope, and this is a rumor, guys, there's absolutely nothing supporting this. As you've seen, everybody was spewing rumors about releases for this year, and none of that ended up being true. Um, but if it were to happen, I would hope that GW wouldn't just death watch the Demon Codex. I would hope that they maintained the index as is so that demon players can still play at least a detachment of unified demons. If they incorporated them into our book, I could see maybe not getting a mono god detachment, but that would just be the disciples of the Red Angel detachment, would be the Khorne demon detachment.
Which is like you don't have to take the world leaders part of that, right?
They
If it
they
was
could
disciples of the Red Angel, you could theoretically just not bring Angron.
yeah, like all of the strats just say Khorne demon unit. Like,
Mm.
and that would hit Angron, that would hit your 8-bound, that would hit your Berserker Calf probably.
So I guess like as a concept, right? Um, are you broadly okay if GW go down this direction of unifying the demons with their cult legions? Are you
Yes, with a
okay with that as
caveat.
a team?
Yes,
Okay.
with a
The
caveat.
caveat being that they can still play.
The caveat is I want them to maintain what already exists while opening up new design space, right? We don't
Mm.
just want to see demons are very popular in my part of the country. I know a lot of people that that's their only army or that's their main go-to favorite army, and it would suck if they had to sit down and partition their armies on eBay because they can no longer play it as a unified army. Because in AOS, you actually can't play unified demons. That's something that's unique to 40K.
Mm.
In AOS, there's Slaves of Darkness where you can have like there's no detachment in AOS that says yes, you can have 4 greater demons of different types on the board. Um, or really there's no rule
Yeah.
support for it either. So that would suck to see that go. I'm personally a Chaos Demons player, and I would still be okay with that, but that's because they're like my second love behind World Leaders. So, I mean, 70% of what I own is Khorne Demons anyways, so I would just kind of vibe with it, but I just want GW to do it right if they do it.
I guess my question for you is that by doing this, do you think it meaningfully changes the sandbox that world leaders have at their disposal? Because I don't think it really does.
I mean, if we get Skull Crushers and Blood Crusher or Berserker Calves, yeah, they're gonna be
That's
fighting for
different. That means I can do the list that I want to do, which is
which is
36
36
mounted
calves.
dudes running across.
Sure, but that's not a reasonable expectation for like
No.
list building. I could see them stepping on each other's toes because like a big issue we had, like one of the best parts of 10th edition so far for World Leaders Design Space is they gave every unit in our index a unique role. Whether or not that role's good enough to justify, um, that's one thing. But the issue of 9th edition is we had Berserker Senior, Berserker Junior, and Berserker for our units. Like 8-bound were just stronger berserkers. Then you had berserkers, then you had jackals, which is berserkers not wearing armor, which was cool, but that's the only roles that they filled. Versus now, your jackals are berserker lights, but they sticky objectives. And your berserkers, blood surge, that's their unique thing, and 8-bound are just really fast. Like they kind of got differentiated a little bit. Like they provide wound
It's not
rerolls too.
much,
It's
I
not
don't
much,
think.
but it's more than it was in ninth. So I'm hoping that
Mm.
if they incorporated Khorne Demons and if they left them as is, like if they just said, yeah, Khorne Demons get just world leader rules as is, I'm not sure we'd be touching them too much. Like bloodletters are just still kind of paper. And like even with +1 strength, +1 attack, yeah, they'd slice and dice, but we already do that. We already slice and dice. So it'd have to be
Yeah.
something different. Like
I think
I'd
the
like,
Fleshhounds would offer a nice kind of interesting, fast, Jackally style unit. I
yeah.
think they would be kind of cool. And hilariously kind of think the Skull Cannon would be a good meme as just like, I want to throw some cursory shooting into my army. Like the Skull Cannon's cheap. It's what, like 90 points?
Yeah, and it's like good toughness. Like if we had skull cannons, we actually might play a
I
couple.
like if Skull Cannons were in the Codex, I'd probably be running three, is what I'm saying.
Oh, you like
Um,
that model?
no, no, no. I would make my own, but I like the rules. And like I think stuff like okay, ooh,
I would
can you
like
imagine how fucking cracked it would be if the Blood Throne worked on World Leader units?
Oh no. See, and but
That would be fucked.
AOS has cross synergy like that.
But
Um,
Exalted 8 bound
and A but
on
I
flat
understand that'd
three
be
across the
fucked.
board, that would be fucked. Yeah.
But like the role that I could see the demons bringing to the Codex would be asymmetric, like unfair mobility.
Sorry, Brian. I got it. Blood Throne synergy working on Glaive Mo, and you bring three of them.
Half damage this +1 +1 equals 4.
Yeah, my
Uh,
man would kill God.
yeah, well, I mean, he did. That still would only bring him back to his not even full power, but still.
No, if you had three Blood Thrones, you go past
Oh,
it
okay,
because
okay.
you
Three,
get
three. I thought we
plus
were
four.
talking about one.
No,
I
no,
didn't think
no.
we were
If we're
going.
going all in, we're going all in. Yeah.
But
I
I
don't
could.
know. There's some units which are redundant. I mean, if we get Jug Cav, then Skull Crushers are redundant. Bloodletters are basically automatically redundant, I would say.
But hold on, because I was saying one thing. Like, what if Bloodletters still kept their ability? Like, if they incorporated demons back, and say we're only talking Disciples of the Red Angel. What if they kept the ability to deep strike 6 inches away?
Well, that is interesting.
Now they
Yeah.
suddenly have a role that's different than like they're still paper, which is design space. Now you're going to see like, hey, you can have super reliable mobility to drop anywhere, but you're paper, but you can still 6 inch deep strike. Maybe as a strat.
Mm.
That's like everybody has 3 inch deep strikes. What if world leaders get you can 6 inch deep strike only if you're a Khorne demon? So like Exalted could do it, but
Seems very powerful for Exalted.
I mean that's the detachment. Like maybe.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I get you. I
But
get
you're
you.
not getting +1 strength, +1 attack. Like there's trade-offs here, and it's a 6 inch charge. You can and will fail that charge
Yeah,
after
yeah.
already investing a CP. Um, I don't know. Could be cool, and that would make them different from Berserkers and Jackals, and give them their own weird little role. And like I wouldn't mind like Exalted 8 bound. Yeah, that seems powerful. Maybe just Bloodletters, but again, cool design space. Could be cool.
I think it's interesting. And I mean, obviously, then you get access to the Bloodthirster, which is an interesting model. There's some interesting characters within the Khorne Demons that merit maybe a little bit of exploration if they can be allied in. The Thirster is an interesting one as like a discount Angron. Like maybe I don't want to dump a load of points on Angron, so I'll just have like the small version of him. So I think it's interesting. I'll put it like that. I
Mm.
don't know if I'm necessarily as drawn to it as you would be. I would probably try it, and whether or not it will come to pass and whether or not it's a good thing remains to be seen. I think it's very much a your opinion will inform how you feel about this. I can't tell you it's a good thing or a bad thing because we're all going to feel very differently about it if it does come to pass. We're all going to have a
Mm.
different standpoint on insular how world leaders should be. Should they be with demons or not? Demon players, does this suck for them? Obviously, in most ways, yes. Yeah, it's a
And
complicated thing to do, and I personally don't believe it's a good idea if they decide to do it.
and tinfoil hat, if they were going to do it, and if they were going to rip the band-aid off, all four factions, cult factions, would have to be released rapidly and quick succession, just to make up for the fact that there are models without a home, right? Like they can't just rip the band-aid off and say, well, we're going to release Death Guard and then World Leaders in 2 months and then
Yeah,
Thousand Suns in 2 months, right? That's not going to be possible because like you're just going to have such a large range with no
which
homes, which
would kind of
lining
justify
up with
why there hasn't
what's
been. Yeah.
happening. And part of me is like, because they did say Chaos is getting a cool surprise at the end of the roadmap. part of me, the cynic inside of me is going to be like, oh, that's just going to be Chaos Knights and move on, and just nothing else is going to happen. They're going to be like, oh, it's just Chaos Knight. They're just hinting Chaos Knights. But the cynic in me is like, they're not doing anything for 4 to 5 months. What if they're just like they already demonstrated their ability to release 3 Battle Force boxes at the same time? There's a good chance that we just get 4 Battle Force boxes at the same time, and it is World Leaders, Emperor's Children, Thousand Sons, Death Guard, all in the same month. Probably not like they'd stagger the Codex releases, but they'll
So
still release the model wave.
I do think if that happens, we're gonna get fuck all for models because the focus will be on Emperor's Children. We might just get one character at that point, and so will all the other cult books, because Emperor's Children is going to be the new favorite.
Good, but like that's tinfoil hat is I maybe they're pausing production because they're ramping production up actually, and they
The
don't want
truth
to.
is somewhere in what we're saying, basically, I would say. Like, I mean, it's a bit coincidental to be like, oh yeah, we've had no chaos books. There's rumors about demons being phased in. You know, there's this period next year where chaos is getting something, and it's kind of like, yeah, I could see it being back to back, maybe 2 3 months of just like boom, 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 culminating in the Emperor's Children, possibly, but
But
it's very, very hard to say.
there's like 12 books left, and 6 of them are chaos books, and 3 of the books coming of those 12 we know are not chaos. So after these 3 books come out, there's going to be like 9 books left, and 6 of them are chaos. The other ones
Yeah,
are like Black Templars, Grey Knights, and like Space Wolves,
Votan.
and like Vote. I guess Votan. Like there's a few more, but like
Yeah.
there's gonna be a period where it's just gonna be chaos, 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 chaos.
It remains to be seen. Yeah, that could be quite a divisive time in 40k, I would
Yeah.
say. Now, I
I
think broadly the internet consensus currently is that it is a good thing for demons to get phased into the cults, and I guess if that's your perspective, because like
done
demon players
correctly.
are
Like
done correctly,
you
yes,
want to
yeah, for sure.
maintain like the caveat here is we don't want to see demons disappear. We don't want to see the demon codex just get thrown in the trash, right?
Yeah, I mean Be'lakor has to have a home somewhere, you know.
New book, Disciples of Be'lakor. Let's make another chaos faction. I would be all over that.
Well, I mean, they might be like, weird chaos hodgepodge book where it's like you got Be'lakor, you got Vashti, you've got like I don't know, maybe Mechanicum, Trader Guard, like just some
Beastmen, like because they've already
call
demonstrated it.
it like call it the Lost and the
Because
Damned
I mean,
and just be like
I
hodge
haven't
it all
opened
in.
the I haven't researched the Imperial Agents book that much. I know broadly what it's done, but I believe there are just data sheets in the book that are duplicates. Like I believe they have the Immolator and Sisters of Battle
Yes, yeah,
Squad and Grey
they
Knights
do.
within the book, so they could. It is absolutely within their ability to print another book that has duplicate data sheets.
Yeah,
So
take like
Trader
Aegis
Guard,
of the Imperium and make it Lost and the Damned.
yes, like Trader Guard are in the CSM book, but they could also just be in this other weird book for
Yeah.
Chaos. And Cypher's probably going to be put in that book too. I don't know. I don't like we have there are Chaos there's Chaos Assassins, right? That's a
We
thing.
have the technology.
Like it just if GW would
Yeah.
love us and stop treating us like the stepchild, then we can have nice things too.
Mm.
Um,
All right.
but I think that's enough rumor milling. I guess the one last thing to touch on is Kill Team.
Yeah. So
Um,
hopefully at some point we will get a World Leaders kill team. Now, if it's in this current season, cycling back to what we were talking about earlier, and they keep with the airborne theme, that is where we might see the Flying Berserkers.
which the current rumor is the next Kill Team is not airborne.
No. But, you know, if we're going to see it anywhere, I think the Flying Berserkers are going to be there.
The
And
Copium.
I would be so, 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 so hyped for that because I love Jump Pack Berserkers more
It's
than anything.
it's just gonna be the World Leaders Berserker kit, Khorne Berserker kit, and that's it, just with the Kill Team logo on it.
But I mean, it'll have some sort of upgrade sprue, right?
Yo,
Shut up, Brian.
so
Just be positive.
let's look at the Chaos Legionnaire kit as an example, or the Night Lord kit, and they're just
Yeah,
Legionnaires.
but no, the Legionnaire kit got like the upgrade.
The
Um,
Reaper Chain Cannon, and that was it.
no, 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 no. It got more. The first Chaos Legionnaire kit that came out had like a bunch of new stuff in it for sure. They had the Magic Man, and they had like the skin suit dude. Like it had a bunch of new things in it, which is now just baked into the CSM Legionnaire like data sheet.
Yeah, like
You
that's
know?
honestly one of the most irritating things that I discovered was when I got into Night Lords was buying the 40K Legionnaire box and being like, where my Reaper Chain Cannon at? Like, what?
Yeah.
It's not in here.
Yeah.
So
So that like every one of those kits has brought something. So my hope would be jump pack berserkers with the dual pistols would be pretty sick. I would take anything that allows me to use my raptor models again, just anything at all I will take. But what about you? Like, I mean, if there's going to be a kill team,
I could see the
I
return of
guess,
like destroyers or something. Just like
yeah. But
what
that
if
would be
the
that, right?
AOS equivalent of, oh God, what's the name of the Wrathmongers? And I think destroyers are like the equivalent of that, where they're like the flail, like more like
No,
unhinged berserkers
you're
or
thinking of
rampagers.
rampagers.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking of rampagers. Some
yeah.
it could be
So
just
like chosen for world leaders.
maybe like berserkers that have quite literally thrown the top half of their armor off, or something like they're just running around like
Yeah,
actual like what you'd think of like historical berserkers, 4-up save marines that are just incredibly lethal.
I think that could
Um,
be pretty fun. Actually, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that could be quite good.
like just actual just like crazy marines not in that forgot to
Dude,
get
bring
dressed.
back the meteor hammer and give it hazardous, and just make them blow themselves up when they swing into a tank. Like that could be pretty cool.
I don't even know. I need to look that up. I've never seen a meteor hammer.
It's the thing in the Rampager kit. You know, it's like the flail. You
Oh,
know, but in the lore. It's got an explosive head. So like when they hit it off
what is
something,
this orc stuff?
it's like a grenade inside a ball,
Oh yeah,
basically.
this sounds dangerous.
Yeah, so something like that where it's like you got a squad of five. You've got two guys with the big axes, two guys with meteor hammers, and one dude who's got like I don't know, maybe twin blades or something, right? And like they're just zerks, but way higher damage.
And
And I think
sacrificing all defense for just all offense.
yeah, I think that would be really sick. You know, that could actually be really cool. Either that or the jump pack dudes with pistols would be ludicrous. Like I would, and you know, you give them the rule where it's like they shoot something and then they move. And let's be toxic. Let's be Eldar.
Yeah, we are actually like when I sit down, like I had an RTT last weekend, and my opponent's like, I've never played against world leaders. What are your tricks? And I was like, actually, we don't have any tricks. Like world leaders are a fairly honest army. Like we do what is
Blood
written.
surge is the only trick,
Yeah, I
I
was
think.
like, I will warn you before I blood surge, and I can advance and charge. I don't have any reactive moves. I don't have any surprise haha like fight on deaths. Like you'll see everything coming before it happens, basically.
Yeah.
And I want to cheat and I want to be dirty and I want my gotchas. So GW, give me more gotcha rules. I want my reactive moves. I want my shooting scoots. I want my like mists of Daimos. Yeah, like Invocatus. When you get close to him and his detachment, they can just be like, nope, bye.
Just a fire ride into the sky.
Yeah. So
I just hope there's a way of giving a Land Raider deep strike in that detachment so that we can like
what the
live the power fantasy of the because he's in the lore. He has a Land Raider driving out of the sky at one point
what
on a
the
bridge of
fuck?
fire. Legit.
So you
So
just want like a repulsor. Got it.
no, no,
Um,
no. I want an ability to deep strike the Land Raider.
well, I mean
Like
anything deep strikes it if you push it out of the ship hangar.
that's true. That's true.
Um,
But yeah, I think
but
we're about there, right? I think that's the sum of it.
that's the sum of it. That's I think that's enough speculating for now.
It
Granted,
got a bit unhinged
we
for
don't,
sure.
but
Yeah.
that's what's fun about it. So like we don't know anything that's coming. We could make
No.
educated guesses about the easy stuff like Cav and a surgeon. If we were to get nothing but that, that's probably what we would get. Like if those are the only two releases, that's probably what we would get. Everything else after that is just gravy.
Yeah.
I think we'll see almost all of that over the course of the next couple editions. I think a
Yeah.
lot of that design space will be explored. Maybe not right away, but at this point, we kind of got to entertain ourselves with fun thoughts because we got a while to
Yeah.
wait, guys.
Sorry guys, we gotta make content and this is how it's gonna be. But yeah, let us know down below if there's like units or rules that you're speculating or wishlisting for that we haven't mentioned here, or what you think of our own speculation, if it's maybe correct, if it's absolute mumbo jumbo, or if you agree that some of those units would be cool. Petition GW to bring back the Scorpion is what I would say. But yeah, I mean, if you want to get more from the Red Path, we have a ton of videos on the channel already. We're gonna have some nice competitive tutorials coming up from myself and Brian over the next while. Now that we're in this kind of a lull with rules as well, I will be able to return to doing a bit more painting tutorials for people, which is quite nice. So let me know down below what you want to see from that as well. And as always, check out the links if you want to support us. Check out our Patreon. or hop into our Discord where you can just hang out and have a good time as well. But I think for now it's about time to close this one out. I was almost about to say I have been Brian.
You don't want
I
to be
have
me.
been
It's
Dara.
okay.
This has been Brian. And until the next one, folks, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main burn.